Welcome to Podcast Kids. This is the first ever episode, and today we're going to be talking about the fight that shocked the world.
Madison Square Garden, June 1st, New York, between Anthony Joshua and Andy Ruiz. So as the first guest on Podcast Kids, I got the man who introduced me to boxing and is one of the most knowledgeable people about the sport that I know, and also happens to be my dad I have on the show today to discuss with me about the Anthony Joshua versus Andy Ruiz big upset that shocks the world. His name is Kunal Savjani, and thank you for taking your time off to come on the show.
Thank you very much, boys, for giving me the privilege of being your first ever guest on the Podcast Kids. Now, without further ado, should we get on with talking about the fight and give your guests what they've come here to listen to?
Yes, let's start now. So, what was your first initial reaction? Because I know you were at Madrid, in fact, watching the Liverpool Champions League final. So, what was your first initial reaction when you saw the result?
Naturally, I was stunned and shocked. I've got to say, I never thought that the odds that they portrayed of 25-1 was anything like what it should be, because you got to remember, as I've always told you, this is heavyweight boxing. One punch can knock anybody out. But I think what really struck me in this, when I watched the fight back, was that it wasn't one punch. And Anthony Joshua actually got absolutely and utterly schooled by Andy Ruiz Jr. And I think we were all very surprised by that. And it shows you, there's that old saying, never judge a book by its cover.
And there's a rumor going around that Drake, because people say that a sportsman or a sports team or someone or a team or someone fighting or competing in a sport, if they have Drake in their changing room or something right before the fight, they lose the fight. It's been like that every time that Drake's been in the changing room before. Do you believe that Drake was in Anthony Joshua's training room? Because in May, Anthony Joshua had an interview and he knew about the Drake curse, and he was asked if he would ever have Drake in his changing room just before a fight, and he said no.
Well, I wasn't aware that he had been asked about that question. But I tell you what, if that is in fact the case, it tells you exactly what the Joshua camp got wrong this time around.
Yeah.
I think it was 5, wasn't it? That he had 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's 2 things to bear in mind there. One of them is that clearly he had just had a fight as well, right? So he was actually...
he had just come from a training camp.
Exactly.
And I heard that people are saying that they watched some of Anthony Joshua's fights and they found out how to make him tired without doing the rope-a-dope and stuff.
Who, Andy Ruiz and his team?
Yes.
In the camp.
Look, there's one thing that can't be denied. They definitely had a game plan, because from what I understand, they reached out over social media and managed to persuade Eddie Hearn to give them the fight. And clearly, if you look at his trainers, he has trained with some of the best trainers throughout his career. In fact, you'd argue that they're much, much more sophisticated trainers than Rob McCracken is. And they've had many more world champions between them all. There has been some thought that Rob McCracken is an overrated trainer for somebody like Anthony Joshua, and I have all the respect for Rob McCracken in the world, but the truth of the matter is, his biggest star ever was Carl Froch, and Carl Froch had the heart of a lion and a granite jaw, but he had the worst boxing technique ever, but he just had the power to outlast people. Clearly, that hasn't been the case with Anthony Joshua now.
Well, he's actually pretty lucky, he just came from a training camp.
Like all the other options would have been like definitely not Dillian White, because that's a fight the whole of the UK would want to watch in somewhere in England, because they're two British men going to war with each other. In the first fight, Anthony Joshua beat Dillian White, though Dillian White has improved because he had just switched from kickboxing at the time to boxing, and now he's experienced.
Wait, I never knew that Dillian White switched.
Yeah, Dillian White had actually always been a kickboxer, and it was only when he was asked to come sparring for David Chisora, I believe it was actually, that they realized that he actually had the potential to become a really good boxer, which he has proven himself to be. But I think talking about Dillian White today is not really the right thing to discuss. You know, Andy Ruiz, it was his night, and we should be focusing on, I think, some of the controversies that happened.
And did you know he was the first Mexican heavyweight world champion of ever?
Yeah, I heard that as well, which was quite surprising.
And it was quite surprising that Anthony Joshua only got one knockdown and he got 4 knockdowns.
Yeah, well, Anthony Joshua most certainly looked like he had produced a proper knockout punch, but you have to take your hats off to Andy Ruiz Jr. because he crumpled to the ground, but when he stood up, he was like a different person.
Yeah.
He almost had that, he had the eye of the tiger, and I know they keep calling him the Mexican Rocky.
Yeah, like at the end of the fight, because he, like in Rocky, Apollo Creed was the champion. Everyone was like, yeah, Rocky's never going to win. And then it's the same story in this.
Yeah.
It is, but if you notice what actually happened here, and if you think back to the Joshua fight versus Klitschko, Joshua has a tendency every time he scores a knockdown to go for the finish. And he really goes for it.
Yeah, that's when he puts his beast mode on.
Yeah.
And that works against a lot of opponents.
Like Anthony Joshua's, he had an upgraded engine when he was beating Klitschko.
Well, if you
came in with some massive right hooks and stuff.
Yeah, but you're talking about later in the fight. If you recall round 5, was it 4 or 5 when he initially put Klitschko down? It looked like Klitschko was over, but Anthony Joshua finished the round totally gassed, because when he came in for the kill, Joshua actually caught a left hook from Klitschko, and that gassed him. And Rahman, what's the one thing I've always told you about when you're getting punched in the face? It's much worse when you're walking in than if you're walking out.
Then if you're walking out, because there's less power coming in. Because if you're going in and the punch is coming in, it's going to hit shorter, which is going to make it do much more damage.
There's much more weight behind the punch,
yeah.
Exactly.
Then it being far, where it's reaching, and then there's a slight loss of balance.
And he made exactly that mistake here again. If you saw, and you got to hand it to Andy Ruiz that he actually stood up to it and actually decided to attack Joshua, but he knew at that point attack was the best form of defense.
Well, he was very smart in his training to do that stuff,
Andy Ruiz
watch the fights and see how to
You're right. He did it in his training, and actually, what you said, how he managed to. What did he manage to do, which I thought was phenomenal, was in round 5 and 6, he started to go to the body.
Yeah. And Andy Ruiz was getting his weight onto the punches.
And
he weighs 268 pounds.
Yeah, but his height's short.
But he was hitting him in the body, and actually, Anthony Joshua, if you look at him, he's a muscle-bound man, which creates a lot of lactic acid, and that uses up a lot of energy. And that's the irony of the fight, is that everyone thought before the fight that it was Andy Ruiz that wouldn't be fit enough for the fight, but it turned out to be Anthony Joshua.
But can I just ask you a question? Do you get the advantage if you're taller or you're shorter in a boxing fight?
It depends.
Well, there's actually a massive advantage about being taller if you've got good boxing skills, because what you can do...
So you get the advantage?
Anthony
But
Joshua,
if you're like
for sure.
a swinger or something like, just like a really like a big swinger, it's not because like they're much lower than you, so you're gonna have to punch down. So it's not always.
Well, Lennox Lewis, one of the most successful heavyweights ever, what was he phenomenal at? And what was Klitschko phenomenal at? What was the one punch they had? Because they were both very tall men, but they mastered their jab. Because if you've got a good jab and you're tall, you keep people away from you. People can't get on the inside. But if you look at Joshua, throughout the fight, he's throwing almost fake jabs. There's no power behind his jabs.
Yeah. What's do you know Anthony Joshua's favorite move and his like most powerful move?
Well, the one that he actually got rid of, what he knocked Ruiz down with initially, and also the one that he got rid of Klitschko with, which was when he slips the right hand and then he uses a left hook and an uppercut.
Yeah,
That's
definitely smart.
Anthony Joshua did land some very powerful uppercuts to Klitschko, which cut Klitschko a few times.
Oh, he did. But
Yeah.
the thing is, these are all power punches, right? And the thing about a jab is that a jab keeps people
Yeah.
at bay.
Because they like if you do a jab, they go back.
And also, you're not really in danger.
And if
throw
it's
the-
an uppercut, their face just goes like that.
If it's a powerful, but
Yeah.
a good combination would be is a hook and an uppercut.
Yeah, but you know what? I think what we should explain a little bit more to your listeners is why was Anthony Joshua's dad so angry with Eddie Hearn at the end of the fight? Did you see where he tried to attack him?
No.
He walked in and he started attacking Eddie Hearn and saying, "You did this to my son." Because there's a rumor that Anthony. Now, there's only two reasons that could happen. One,
Eddie
Is-
Hearn like arranged it to like.
well, there's two rumors. Rumor number one is Anthony Joshua got knocked out in sparring and was concussed, and his dad didn't want the fight to go ahead. Rumor number two is his dad doesn't understand why Eddie Hearn made Anthony Joshua fight in America. Because it's a very different
It was
thing.
his debut in America.
And
Wait,
Which is
which day did he land in America?
oh, he's been training in Miami for weeks. Another mistake I think they made.
Like how long was he training for?
like 2.
5 weeks in Miami.
Yeah.
Yeah, but do you know what day he a date he arrived in
No, all we know is it's 5 weeks before the.
Which is an issue because he should have really. He wasn't acclimatizing or he wasn't acclimatizing.
Because he would have got better training if he was in
in England,
Yeah.
where he's more comfortable. He's at home. But the main question is, Anthony Joshua looked like a different fighter on Saturday night to what he looks like in England.
He definitely did.
Well, doesn't that show you something? Maybe there's a lot of people, Tyson Fury have been saying it, Deontay Wilder, a lot of people have been saying that Anthony Joshua has been protected. And if you consistently, basically, if Liverpool played at home every single match,
Yeah, they'd
They've got-
probably win.
they've got an unfair advantage, don't they?
Yeah.
Anthony Joshua has been fighting at home against opponents that's been picked by Eddie Hearn. He went away to the US and he looked like a different fighter from day one. The question is, does anybody believe he's going to come back from this?
Yeah, he is.
To fight Andy Ruiz again.
He's already planning a rematch in December or November or December.
No, but the question I'm asking is that now, in the past, people walked into the ring scared of Anthony Joshua. If you notice, everyone was always backing up, yeah?
He seemed a bit scared this time against Ruiz. He was running away and everything. Not like running like how you would do in a sprint or something, but like he kept on moving away from Andy Ruiz.
And maybe now
Because like his coaches were like amazing.
No, but maybe but the coaches now, the blueprint is there, right? The blueprint is there that people are saying, actually, let me attack this guy. And you know, mentally it's a different case because until now he's always thought that he was going to be able to plow through everybody.
Yeah, but he didn't really fight people that tough. One, Klitschko was old, though it was a good fight. That's why Anthony Joshua was planning on That's why this will be a big disappointment to him, because he was gonna his net worth is $60 million, 60.
Anthony Joshua's.
Yeah, and from the fight against Deontay Wilder, because Anthony Joshua had WBA, WBO, IBF, and IBO, 4 of the big belts from heavyweight, and Deontay Wilder had won. Anthony Joshua is going to make $50 million. Was it dollars?
Dollars, yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, is he a millionaire or billionaire?
Millionaire, 60 million. So, and that was almost his full net worth. So what he was planning on doing was getting away with easy fights, and then if you don't have any belts, you're not going to make so much from a fight. So now if he fights Deontay Wilder, he won't earn as much. He won't earn that 50 million, which is almost his net worth. He won't earn that.
Well, yeah, you're right, because the golden goose is now gone. You know, this whole...
Andy Ruiz.
Well, it's not even to Andy Ruiz, because Andy Ruiz is not going to command that type of number.
Yeah, so if he gets Deontay Wilder's Andy Ruiz belts and then he fights everyone and defeats him, he gets a lot.
Yeah, because that's a good point. Andy Ruiz isn't that greedy. Cause Andy Joshua, he.
No, but Rahman, you're missing the main ingredient here.
What?
Deontay Wilder is undefeated.
Andy Ruiz
Anthony
is undefeated.
Anthony Joshua was undefeated.
Andy Ruiz is defeated.
Andy Ruiz is defeated, but not only is Andy Ruiz defeated, the reality of it is, due to the fact that you had the US versus the UK, also Anthony Joshua has been made a national hero, a sporting icon. Yeah, there's a lot of money that follows him. People want to watch him because they believe that he could become one of the greatest ever. That's the story that's been told. So you had 2 undefeated heavyweights getting in the ring together, and somebody's had got to go. I'm not saying the fight can't happen again, but at the end of the day, Wilder doesn't have to fight him. Wilder now, if he does fight him, today demands the lion's share of the money.
Wait.
So that's a good point. So Anthony Joshua won't even if he gets all those belts back, he won't earn that 50 million. He'll earn let's say 30 million, but we don't know because the fight hasn't even been planned yet.
We don't know.
Yeah, and Deontay Wilder obviously.
Someone else he might want to fight.
He's just taking the risk of losing his
Who's that?
Tyson Fury?
Yeah, Tyson Fury, or the person who moved from from cruiserweight.
Alexander Usyk.
Yeah, Alexander Usyk.
I tell you what, that's a really good point, Rahman.
Because Alexander Usyk hasn't even had a fight yet.
Yeah, well, I think that's a really good point. And I tell you what, this result has opened up the heavyweight division, because Alexander Usyk, that is one bad man. And he now has a real shot. I think he would have always struggled maybe with the taller heavyweights like a Tyson Fury or a Anthony Joshua, just because he's coming up from cruiserweight. But going in against somebody his own height, with his skills, he could well cause a lot of troubles for Andy Ruiz Jr.
He is a fast hitter.
Oh, he's an extremely fast hitter. He's a bad man with bad skills.
Sorry to cut you up. That's all we've got time for today. Make sure to stay tuned for more and please subscribe.